Hey everyone. So today's video is going to be about a painting demo I found on a YouTube channel about painting daisies, right? So that's a quick, we'll talk about it in a minute more. So you can watch me do this step by step. I want to introduce, there you go. Boom. That's what we're doing. I also want to get the results on the same introduction. Reason being, it seems to be more time efficient. If you know what we're doing and then you hear what I learned from it, then you can sort of skip through the actual demonstration to find the parts you want to look at, right? That's what I do. So I figured I might as well do that for everyone else. So pull this back up so you can see it, right? I found this to be a lot of fun, got a lot out of it, right? This was masking, so you'll see. You mask off all the flowers and then you do the background and then you pull the mask off and then you do the flowers. I think that the backgrounds, the technique's really nice. It's a new technique for me. So this is obviously a bunch of wet on wet. Then you let this dry and you're bringing in some other pieces as dry on to, or paint, almost dry brush technique, right? So very strong colors. What did I learn? Beyond just continuing to learn more things and more techniques, how can I make this better? Background could be darker. Yes, I have notes. Background could be darker to make the daisies pop a little bit more, right? Green for stems. I don't really feel like the green is the right green. I used that. This is too much out of the tube and it should have been something I mixed. That's my bad, right? There's a spatter that actually happens in here, which you can barely see. So I need to use, I used white watercolor paint, I need to use white gouache. And I was really silly because I looked at this. I know better. I garden. The flowers are turned in oddball directions. All flowers, daisies especially, they turn towards the sun. So they would all be turned in the same direction. They're not going to be in some oddball, like this one's going this way, right? That's just a bad observation. So there you go. So that's my introduction. The rest of it will be the demonstration. Thanks for watching. You'll see at the end where you can, click and subscribe and like and all that kind of good stuff if you feel like it. All right. Thanks. Okay, so I'm going to describe what I'm going to do and then I'm going to do it. So all the masking for the flowers has dried. Now I'm going to just do a background. I'm going to do a white wash across the whole thing and go in with some yellow and a couple of different colors of green that I've already mixed up over here, right? My palette is a little messy, but I mix in other colors and that's fine. Yeah, so I'm just going to start and fast forward it on the video. All right, so I'm gonna maybe a little more yellow, a couple of spots. And I'm just gonna let the wet on wet sort of blend these together into the background. And let that dry to the point of being damp. All right, we'll be back. Okay, so now I'm just going to take some stronger colors. It's still damp. I'm just bringing the colors up. I want to have that a little wetter, right? Might be a little too dry. Oh, okay, so now we're getting some bleeding, but if it's too dry, I have this mister. Right, so I'm going to leave that. I'm just going to sprinkle some salt into the background. Okay, and I'm going to just let that dry, air dry, because in the past I've tried using a hair dryer with salt and I've gotten really poor results. So let's see how that goes and go from there. Okay, so seems like kind of like normal for me. I'm not getting any big reaction from the salt, but I'm going to take off the mask now. Okay, so there we go. Even though we didn't get much salt reaction, the background's okay. I'm now going to work on the centers. So and this is a small brush, like a size 3. I'm just going to work. This is dry on dry. So just using the orange and then a little yellow. I might want to tone the orange down a little. I'm not sure. And I'm just going to go around to all of the different flowers and do something very similar. I'm also able to start thinking about the stems. So we have the stems in. I'm using a fairly pure color. Wouldn't mind toning it down just a touch. Now we can start thinking about some leaves. So push down and then pull up to get your points. And what I find I need to do is actually load it afterwards, since you've made the mark. So to get a little depth in the flowers themselves, I'm just going to add some brown around the edge. You notice I took a brown and I mixed it into the same orange that I actually used. So that the paint or the colors all kind of harmonize. I'm trying. And I've made a little more that's a little different. It's just a blue mixed in with the orange to keep it in that same family. Just adding a little more texture into some of these places. All right, I'm going to probably come back and work a little separation in some of these leaves after they dry a little bit more. They're still too damp. If I put anything in there, I won't get any definition. And I can start working on the actual petals. So now I've used an ultramarine blue and mixed in with a little of the orange. The centers of the flowers are still a little wet, and I'm just going to be kind of going for it. And before that completely dries, take some clean water and just wash it in so it doesn't stand out so much. So still with that same mix, just adding a little stronger tint in some, or pigment in some of the areas. And I'm seeing stuff that's too watery, so I'll pick up some of the pigment. So getting down into more details, just helping to separate these out just a little more, some of the darker. And this is still wet, so I have to be tentative and careful. That one's actually way too wet, so I'll have to let that dry and come back a little bit. So we're getting closer. I felt like the leaves needed a little something. Partially just a wash to tone them down. And they're still a bit wet. And this could be me starting to overwork the painting for sure. So the last thing the person who did the video did was spatter it with white, which I will try, but I still feel like I lost some. Because the water faded too much. It's It's my own fault. So, that's a bit too much on the red there. But and I want to do this. I'm going to now go into my own world. That's not what they're telling me on the video or on the tutorial. I've lost some of the definition that I want to maintain in the center of the flowers. So I want to put back some. And I'm probably going to come back and highlight the dark edge again. So I'm not quite done yet. I might try now, since those are actually centered and quite wet, to see if adding some salt might give them a little texture. Not like literal texture, it's not the intent. All right, I'm gonna stop working it. I'm gonna leave it there and let it dry.